So let's start with you, Dr. Neblett.
Sure.
Introduce yourself and just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Michael Neblett. I grew up in a small town in Middle Tennessee, traveled across the long state of Tennessee to East Tennessee, went to East Tennessee State University for college and loved it so much I stayed there in the Appalachian region for medical school for 4 years and wanted to come to a different experience, so moved to Georgia, and I'm a PGY4 here now.
All right. I'm Dr. Olatunji, Damilola Olatunji. I was born and raised in Nigeria. I moved to the U.S. at the age of 10. So home is Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. I left for college. So right after high school, I wanted to get a different experience. I attended Brown University for undergrad and moved to the D.C., Maryland area after that for research at the National Institutes of Health. Got a master's degree from Georgetown, made my way over to the Midwest and attended medical school at the Ohio State University College of Medicine, and then made my way back home here to Atlanta, Georgia for residency.
That's amazing.
Oh, yes.
So you have definitely...
Long travel, more than me. I just traveled south a little bit.
So, I mean, I think that that's the best first way to sort of start figuring out, like, if you've been to so many different sort of environments, what was it about Emory that made you want to train here?
So there are many different reasons that I wanted to train at Emory, and I like to describe it kind of like a cake. I'd love some cake right now, actually. Yes. But let's think of a cake. You have the main cake itself, and then you have the icing and all the decorative pieces of the cake. For me, the main cake itself is Emory University as an institution in the GY and OB division. And as a department, it's just a strong department. It's just lots of good training that happens here. And I know that not just by looking at the website or looking at what Emory itself puts out, but by speaking to people who have experienced Emory. So prior to coming here, I made it a point to reach out to other individuals that had trained at Emory years ago, so say 10-ish years ago, and then individuals that recently trained at Emory, just to get an idea of what the experience really is like. And based on what I was hearing, it sounded like I would get a very strong training background here. That's the main cake. In terms of the icing of the cake, as mentioned, Atlanta, Georgia is what I consider home. And so it was very important for me to make my way back here and to give back to the community that I consider a community that was part of my upbringing. And so that's the icing and that's the decoration.
Now, you had a little bit of chance to try that cake a little bit, didn't you? I think you did a visiting rotation here. Is that right?
I sure did, Dr. Neblett. And so during my 4th year of medical school, I made it a point to do a visiting rotation here as a medical student. The goal with that was for me to determine whether what I had read about Emory, what I had talked to other people about Emory was really, legit and it felt right. And so I like to experience things myself. I like to go with my gut. I like to really pay attention to how I'm feeling when I'm in a space. And the month that I spent here last summer during my 4th year as a med student was phenomenal. I got to meet so many different residents and work with so many different residents. I met you last summer.
I know. I remember that.
And it just felt like home. And that's very important for me. Residency is difficult. And so to feel like I'm surrounded by people who support me and to feel like I'm in a space that feels like home was huge. So
I'm the same way. I mean, I can remember back 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Emory as a visiting medical student. And the biggest thing that was memorable to me was the residents. It was such a great opportunity to watch other residents, senior residents, teach junior residents. Anytime that there was free time, whether it's going to the cafeteria or after rounds, there was education, was teaching, was going up, pulling up a PowerPoint. And I didn't see that a lot in other places. And so that was one thing I knew what I was kind of getting myself into coming into residency. That was very important to me. So many times you see senior level residents really taking charge and being great leaders and mentors to junior residents, not only with work stuff, but also outside of work and sort of life stuff, the real life stuff. It's sort of special that I had a chance to experience firsthand here. Another thing was the diversity. We talked a little bit, I'm from a small rural town. I actually grew up in a town with less than 2,000 people, no red lights, very, very small. And so, yeah, it's very, very small, very, very small. And so, even though the Johnson City was a little bit bigger than that, I really wanted to train at a place that offered a great deal of diversity. That was really important to me. Diversity is really in the faculty that we're training with. Having exposure to fellowships was important to me. I didn't know what I wanted to do coming into residency, but thought that I wanted to do something in academics and teaching. And so obviously that seeing the atmosphere of teaching was the first thing I drew here, but I wanted exposures as well. So fellowship was really important. Diversity also in the patients. At Emory, we now go to 6 different hospitals now. And so that's a lot of traveling, but you see a lot of stuff that's, in my 4 years, looking back and sort of comparing to other programs, I'm not sure if I would have got that same exposure anywhere else in the country. So this amazing opportunity, just taking care of so many different patients from various backgrounds, different countries, different languages speaking, using interpretive services. Like these are all kind of things that was great to learn. So.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that's one of the things that I paid attention to when applying to residency programs. And so for those who don't know, the city of Atlanta is 52.2% Black/African American. And as a Black woman in medicine and underrepresented minority in medicine, for me, it was important to train in a city where I felt like I could give back to my community as well as other individuals that do not look like me. And for me, Atlanta matched that really well. And to your point about the diversity of the faculty members, when I was a visiting medical student here and I would show up for ground rounds on Wednesdays, it really brought joy to my heart when I would walk in and see so many different types of people, especially the Black attendings, the Black women I saw in the room, people that I saw in the future serving as really strong mentors for me, in addition to the other attendings that did not necessarily look like me and probably do not have the same experiences as me that can also serve in mentorship roles in that aspect as well. So that was really, really huge.
Absolutely.